Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be taking another look at Mid Shadow. I know I've done this a fair bit, but I've had a very busy week with having to move and look for a new place and arrange all the lease and all the normal stuff you do with moving. So this video is just going to be one of those ones that is kind of just a stopgap between content. So hopefully you guys can stay with us for a few days and keep on that kind of roll. So obviously not much has changed for this Mid Shadow deck. We have the Immortal Fiend, the Demon Lord Egda, Skeleton Prince, and Underworld Ruler Aisha. All the standard stuff I like to run. I like one Aisha, one Black Swan. You could easily run more. You can mix up your numbers pretty effectively. I also like running one bad just because it is a 6-drop, meaning you can throw this out on 6, follow straight up with Demon Lord, or you can just take advantage of it late game and use it for that. But either way, everything in this deck is still quite good, quite consistent, and functions really nicely even with your few one-offs. So hopefully you guys enjoy it and we'll get right into some games. So our first matchup is Portal, of course. Portal still fun deck, definitely better than most people give it credit for, especially if you can play it well. But there is a lot of bad Portal players out there. And we start off with a really crappy hand. The best card in our hand is definitely Ceres at the moment, just because Portal doesn't really have a decent way to deal with Ceres effectively without just straight up otherworlding it, and that's just not that practical of a solution. So they are running Ancient Amplifier, in my opinion, not the best Portal card to run as a 1-drop, just because you will clog your deck with artifacts, which you don't really want to do unless you know you have Des in hand. So unless he has Des in hand, you would not want to be dropping that on turn 1. We, on the other hand, get a nice Gourmet Emperor on turn 3, which is going to fit really nicely with either Ceres or Demon Eater on turn 4, along with that ultimate carrot play. And of course, Cat Cannoneer going in, killing the 2-2. Should have really expected it. They've now absolutely flooded their deck, which personally don't recommend doing most of the time. Usually I try and stick to a strict 6 artifact limit to what I throw in my deck in the initial 3 or 4 turns. And Gravikinetic Warrior, another card I'm not the biggest fan of, but I know some people are. This looks like a absolutely all out just throw artifacts in the deck kind of deck, where they don't really care what they're throwing in, they just want to flood the deck with artifacts, which I personally don't like. I much prefer to have a little more consistency with what artifacts I'm pulling. But the ultimate carrot and a nice Belinus is going to fit really well, especially spending this evolve to trade, getting rid of this 5/4 and also dealing the damage we want. Going to work really nicely. And these Belinuses will make it hard to play any other artifacts that just won't straight out die to their 1 ping. Alright, Biofabrication, so we know they have an artifact in hand. Now we know they are ancient artifacts, so they are flooding those. Which I'm quite happy with how this has turned out now. I mean, the trade here is going to drop them to 2 health, which means Ceres can actually clean this up nicely. We can also drop the carrot down alongside the Ceres, just how I want it to go. Like I said, Ceres again, hardest card for Portal to probably deal with, just because their rush cards can't easily deal with it. So we get that nice trade there. Can't go wrong with that. Otherworld Rift, killing off the Ceres, getting the H artifact. That's all fine. Like I said, the only way to really remove Ceres is Otherworld, and that really stuffs you up when I drop something like Immortal Thane and you've already played your Otherworld, and we haven't seen it does, so they had to spend that whole turn removing that. Really nice thing to see happen. Not so nice though. We get to see Spinaria come down. With its evolve, it is going to be able to remove either the Thane or the Wraiths, which is fine. Either way, it would have been pretty interesting to see. Like, I mean, that 4 damage would have left the Thane at 1, but the ping is pretty likely they could have traded anyway. Unlucky for me, they get a pretty good clear overall. I didn't really expect that to come out there, but I probably should have, honestly. It's a very interesting artifact deck, not something I'm a fan of they're playing. And of course I had to hit the 1/1, probably the worst thing to hit with that Sometimes I think taking the risk though is fine, especially if I can just flood the board here and I can set up bad into the next turn. Turn 9 bad, really solid. Especially if you've already got a board developed, which Shadow's usually quite good at doing. Another biofabrication. Mystic artifact, probably one of my favorite kinds of artifacts.
Awaken.
And this Binarius just giving for the trade, so they can use that to ping there. Really not that bad. So decide to just go for it, play the Swan. Not really concerned with what they do. That Swan on board, not really a big threat to me honestly. I mean, I can get rid of stuff like that reasonably easily. It was more important that I cleared this off so I could set up either Aisha next turn if I want to, or just flood the board with whatever I've got. Even though they are going to trade quite effectively, they also still haven't played a Dez, which means they don't have anything in hand that they can use to just completely flood me out. Especially without an evolve to draw cards. The entity is once a little annoying, but as a 2 is fine. And of course, Skull Ring. Perfect way to start setting up this board. Especially if I just absolutely flood it. Take advantage of, you know, Demon Eater. Probably should have honestly dropped Catacomb, just because then I could use bad turn 9 and absolutely demolish them. But I think I'll be happy with playing that out and getting the draw, just so I can go for those Necro Assassin plays. Or just really anything else in my deck, like Hector. If they don't decide to do any trading, the healing wouldn't have really been an issue anyway, honestly, if they did. And I can go for another full board flood. So board flooding, something I do really well in the mid to late game with this deck, especially the late game against Portal. And now we've actually set up lethal with Aisha, so no problems for me. Next, a Shadow matchup. Shadow vs Shadow. Of course, being Shadow vs Shadow, it is still a 50-50 matchup, provided we are both playing mid. They also have the adorable Cerberus leader, which even with the censorship controversy is still pretty cool. I still have 0 leaders out of, you know, 500, 600 packs. I have 0 leaders out of everything. Like between Starforge Legends and this expansion. So Demon Eater on 2, you always know that's a feel bad moment. Those Demon Eaters aren't great to be played on their own. But following up with the Skull Ring is pretty solid. I like seeing Skull Ring come down. So, a few options. Ceres I think is the better one, just because nothing here can actually deal with Ceres this turn. At least not in any kind of effective way without using something like a lurching combo. And a Catacomb really isn't going to help because that Ceres absolutely dominates against that.
Dance, dear bones of white.
Especially now that they've done that, so Ceres' trade potential is so good here. And they only get that 1 damage ping, that's gotta feel bad. So we can remove this 3, leave them with a full board. There shouldn't be anything on 5 that can actually do anything substantial, and we get to clear 2 of these skeletons anyway, so they're only going to have 3 followers going into next turn, all of which probably aren't going to be that great when you consider what they've already played. And I get to heal the 1 damage they actually dealt me. So getting Ceres in the mid versus mid match is great, especially when I can follow up with Black Swan. So the target hits that Belinus, Belinus pings and kills their 1/1. Couldn't have asked for a literal better setup there.
Let's make the world quieter.
Unfortunately they do finally deal with the Ceres, although they do have to leave that 4/3 up, and we can actually Black Swan this turn, getting a full board clear and 4 damage to face, plus the 2 from the Swan anyway, so 6 damage total to face this turn.
Don't let the light blind you. I'm stuck.
Really enjoyed this matchup. They didn't though, clearly. So again, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. Of course, like I said, playing Mid Shadow, just replaying stuff, going over a bit after a little bit of time has passed since we played it last. Still just as good. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. It's just as consistent. You can easily pick up wins. Like I said, number adjustments are pretty easy, so this deck isn't very hard to make. Of course, it is on the cheaper side legendaries wise when it comes to Demon Lords, but it is a little expensive with the golds adding up. But we will be all moved once this video is released, but we'll still probably be in the process of unpacking, and I've got a game launch coming that Friday, along with an upcoming tournament that I will probably be arranging very, very shortly, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you haven't, check out the Shadownexus YouTube channel where you can find the best of series and anything else that might interest your fancy. So make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.